nobody's got money to feed their family. And I really do believe that the combination of factors really contributed to the Civil War and the insurgency. And the last thing I'll say is General David Petraeus, when he was the first commander of Minsticky as a two-star general back in 04, 05, who's now, you know, omnipotent as a four-star. When he was the first commander of Minsticky, he ordered 190,000 weapons to be issued to the Iraqi military and national police. They disappeared. The Government Accountability Office could not find them after doing an audit. They're gone. And David Petraeus got promoted twice after that. I have a real problem with that because he went to West Point just like I did. Command doesn't mean you're responsible just for the successes of your command. You're responsible for its failures as well. But not if you're David Petraeus. So anyway, I really appreciate your attention and your time, and I'm very glad to be here. And I see the book going around. There's 205 or something photographs in it. I took them all, unless I'm in them. And by all means, read inside the flap the description of the cover photograph, which was on the cover of Stars and Stripes after that incident happened. I was about a mile away when that thing went off. So thanks, everybody, and look forward to your questions later on.
I don't know. I'm sure you guys have seen. I think the New York Times article a couple days ago talking about the Supreme Court ruling in Iraq, saying that they've got to reconvene the Parliament. What is either one you can welcome to answer? Your reaction to that? Do you think that's going to have any effect on kind of moving this government formation forward?
Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think just to give a background to everybody, what has been happening is that when the results were announced on June, or the process works this way: when the results were announced on June 1st and ratified by the Supreme Court, by the Constitution, the president is supposed to, the current president, the incumbent president, is supposed to issue a decree asking the Parliament to convene within 14 days. So the Parliament and the President did do that after the results were ratified by the Supreme Court on June 1st. So the Parliament did convene after 14 days, but they only convened.
I was wondering what actions taken by the United States most contributed to the growth of the insurgency?
Well, when we invaded in 03, we didn't know who the enemy was going to be, and it turned out that the enemy were, for the most part, not regular Iraqi army forces, but guys in plain clothes, Fedayeen, insurgents. It also turns out that in the initial advances of the Marine and the Army, the Marine was going on one route, and the Army was going on another route from Kuwait, and they were heading north. And they came upon these caches of weapons that Saddam had planted in all these villages and towns all over Iraq. And it's amazing because one of the main reasons for going over there was weapons of mass destruction. And it turns out that there were no WMD, chem bio experts with the advancing troop columns going up there to make a determination if there was WMD maybe buried under these stockpiles of ammunition. So they left the stuff in place, didn't blow it up. So they had all this ammunition all over the place. And then the forces were going up primarily primarily armor forces, okay, tanks. Not enough infantry, foot soldiers. And infantry is what goes house to house, door to door. And to take people out. They're hiding in every nook and cranny. And that wasn't done to the degree that it really should have been done. So as we continued up towards Baghdad at 40 miles an hour in these XM1 tanks, or M1A2 tanks, trying to get to Baghdad as fast as possible to declare mission accomplished, all these plainclothes people, insurgents are all over the place, everywhere, just waiting for the tanks to roll by and going into the, opening the door and grabbing all these weapons that were just left by U.S. forces. So they had all this manpower that was not killed by infantry, with all this weapons that was these weapons and ammunition, the ammunition that was not destroyed by the advancing forces. So it's like a car going through a puddle of water. When you go through the puddle of water, what does the water do? It goes right back where it was before. So as we went up, our tanks rolled up towards Baghdad, all these guys just followed them up the road, right behind them. And then when we when the President declared mission accomplished on the USS Abraham Lincoln, the war was not even close to being over. We had just physically arrived in Baghdad. That's all. So then what ended up happening was we really didn't have enough forces to really take out all these guys. Ingredient number one. Things did settle down. I knew guys that were over there in 03, 04 after the initial assault ended, and things in Baghdad and in Iraq were rather calm. But then Paul Bremer disbanded the Iraqi army and the National Police. And when he did that, he fired all these men that didn't have a means of income now, because he wanted to, wipe the slate clean, start from scratch, de-Ba'athify, wipe the slate clean politically and get rid of everybody. Instead of getting rid of all the senior officers in the army, he fired everybody. And the Iraqi soldier couldn't have cared less probably about Saddam, but just wanted a job. So then what happened was you got all these people, all these soldiers that are unemployed, furious at the U.S. government for firing them, and they all have weapons. And then, of course, you have the Sunni and the Shia, who are not crazy about each other. And then you have Al-Qaeda in Iraq, AQI. And then you have influence from Iran to the east and Syria and Saudi Arabia to the west. And you have all these, Iraq is like, it's Mesopotamia. It's the land between the two rivers. It's the Fertile Crescent. It's right smack in the middle of everything. And when we invaded, even though Saddam was a bad actor, and even though I really believe we should have taken him out, and I talk about it in the first chapter, we were told that the reason we didn't take Saddam out in '91 was because we didn't want to create a power vacuum. Take out Saddam, who would lead Syria, Saudi Arabia, Iran, everybody would come in and it would be a sucking sound. What did we do 12 years later? We did just that. We created the very power vacuum we were trying to avoid in '91, in my opinion. And but we really, I think, really created it ourselves. Imagine if all these things I mentioned were not done. We had not disbanded the military or national police except at the top, highest levels. I was an infantry officer. What do you do with a soldier? Keep him busy. Just keep him busy. We had gone in with more than enough forces to wipe out the Fedayeen and blown all these weapons caches up.